Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I need a drink because as I've only just woken up, it's only like 8 o'clock in the fucking morning, and I went to bed at about 12, so, you know, I'm a little bit shit-faced right now. But this video is going to address a mistake I made, and it's also going to be addressing what Keir The Traitor Starmer said about his future prospects, shall we say. So first and foremost, the mistake I made was about that 11-year-old kid that got arrested. Turns out, I think somebody's been mentioning that he actually squirted police officers with a water pistol. Yes, I know, very terrifying. Kids running around with water pistols. But it wasn't memes like I originally said. Everyone makes mistakes. Even I do. But it still doesn't change the fact that a kid is being arrested for what I deem as a non-offence. I mean, the only real damage the boy could have done is if he was aiming for the eyes, and maybe someone's got, like, sensitive eyes or some shit. Maybe he could have blinded someone. But I'm pretty sure that would never have been his intention, number one. And number two, it just seems like lunacy to me to go and arrest someone over a bloody water pistol. But what do I bloody know? At the end of the day, though, they could end up screwing this kid's life up based off of a simple mistake. Though I must admit, it's still funny thinking back to that scenario I put out where it's like, what are you in for? I posted memes to the internet. I mean, that's always going to make me laugh, quite frankly, as well as piss me off. But at least I can safely rest now, rest easy, maybe go back and have another nap, knowing that this kid is at least not going to get screwed over just because of posting things on the internet. But enough about the kid. This is just me saying I'm sorry. Got the wrong reason he was arrested. Doesn't change the fact it's still reprehensible shit. Now, time for Keir The Traitor Starmer to receive another grilling. I'm surprised he hasn't gone a complete shade of charcoal black the amount of times I've been roasting him, quite frankly. Keir The Traitor Starmer wants you to have faith in him, and please try not to laugh too much. I know I had a hard time wrapping my head around it when I first saw it. But he wants you to put faith in him for 10 years. 10 years. You can fuck off right now, Keir The Traitor Starmer. Because nobody here in this country, unless they are completely brain dead, is going to want you in power for more than 1 month at this point, let alone 10 fucking years. Look how much damage you've already done to the country with your outlandish, primitive, and just downright batshit bonkers policies and assault on the British public that you have brought in. You want to bring in this smoking ban, and I can't remember off the top of my head if I mentioned it briefly in the previous video, but basically the whole plan of this smoking ban, which it's funny because someone actually questioned James Corden, I believe it was, the MP, will they still be able to smoke on the terraces of the Houses of Commons? And he answered yes. So it's clearly one of those bans for thee, but not for me references. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks. Because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. But these people, they want to bring this smoking ban in for pub gardens and other public open spaces, which will, as I've said before and will say here again, it will kill communities. It will kill the pubs. And it will kill tobacco in the sense that it will drive it underground. It will put it in the hands of criminals. And if there's anything that waging war on drugs has taught anyone, or in America, what waging wars on gun control has done, it showed everyone that it does not punish the wrong uns, it punishes the right people, as in the people who stand on the right side of history. It punishes the people who are law-abiding and do everything by the book. It punishes the people who use tobacco because they want to unwind. They want to go to a pub, have a drink, have a smoke, be able to relax, and what have you. This smoking ban will divide communities, which, let's face it, Keir the Traitor Starmer is trying to divide and conquer. He is trying to destroy our communities because, obviously, a community united is much harder to pick apart than isolated sections of groups where they don't have that cohesiveness and community. This is what they're going to use to allow Islam to take over the country and then impose Sharia law. But Keir the Traitor Starmer needs to understand, Islam doesn't see you as an ally. You know what they see you as, Keir the Traitor Starmer? They see you as a useful idiot. A literal tool to be used, which is quite fitting since your father was indeed a toolmaker and he made the biggest tool of all. You. You are the perfect tool for Islam and the Alan snack bar shouters who basically want to destroy the West. They only see you as a means to the end. And once that end has been met, do you know what they're going to do with you? They're going to toss you straight in the bin. Simple as that. Once they've fulfilled their use for you, Keir the Traitor Starmer, you're going to get thrown away like trash. And you wonder why I use the term, we need to take out the trash. But Keir doesn't understand the concept of useful idiot. He prefers to focus on how he's going to crack down on the supposed far right while ignoring what happened. Not one fucking mention of Notting Hill Carnival. How he has not made one friggin' mention to any of us about how he's enabling the free movement of people from the EU again, and how he is ultimately planning to bring us back into Brexit. And it makes sense when you think about it, because the army has had their defence budget cut. The army, we have our army at its worst point in God only knows how long. And all of this is because the Labour Party have been staunch Ramonas, staunch advocates for EU integration. One army, one anthem. Well, that is not a fucking anthem I'm willing to support. There is only one anthem I support, and it is that of the United Kingdom and God save our Queen/King. I will never show allegiance to that ring piece flag. I will never show loyalty to an unelected bunch of bureaucrats. Or maybe I was right first time. In Brussels, who have no care in the world for democracy and in fact are anti-democratic. I'm sorry. I really am having trouble this morning. But the same people who basically wanted to charge us when we were part of the EU £55 million a day gross in order to get the unrestricted movement of people into our country, to not even get a shred of appreciation, and to tie us in shackles to the European Union. I don't think that's a very good deal. And I know there's probably going to be someone who comes into the comments and says, well, what about Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage who said, oh, why do we put that 330 million into fucking the NHS? I mean, it was a stupid statement for Boris Johnson to say, and Nigel Farage even said, I do not recommend saying that. So don't blame Nigel Farage for that shit. And frankly, for Boris to say it was misguided at best, and stupidly deluded at worst. Speaking of which, the smoking ban that Keir the Traitor Starmer wanted, as I said before, he wants to relieve the pressure on the NHS. As I said before, though, the tobacco revenue is 4 or 5 times that of the cost to treat tobacco-related diseases and issues, of course. But that's something the mainstream media don't want to tell you. It's something Keir the Traitor Starmer doesn't want to tell you. What about, as well, the fact that Keir wants to make it so he can basically have a standing army from these illegal immigrants, or make it so that police have additional powers to disperse protests whenever they fucking wish. So you come out to protest against the government, they can disperse you or arrest you. Now, I don't know about you, but last time I checked, the ability to protest is a matter of freedom of speech. It is a matter of we need to have the right to be able to protest these things, because what do you have when you don't have protest abilities? You have total systematic and societal collapse. Because if people can't yell from the rooftops, or yell out, or speak out against a corrupt establishment, they are effectively only left with one other option, and that is a violent revolution. But it scares me to think that this is actually what Keir the Traitor Starmer wants. Keir the Traitor Starmer is using power as an end, not the means. He is trying to bring about a revolution to justify the dictatorship. Or again, maybe I was right first time. He is trying to push the people over the edge. He is trying to do a George Orwell on us. He's trying to get this violent revolution to break out in what he's hoping is a small controllable number, so then he can be like, we have seen the rise of the far right, so I have decided that we will now enforce curfews. There will now be the National Guard brought in. There will be a curfew of you can only be out at these times. That is basically what he's planning to do. And as I've said, I would rather this ends peacefully. I would rather that traitor, that dictator, be out of power via legal means. We're not going to achieve total victory if we basically sit here and be like, well, we've got to go in guns blazing. No, I want this to be peaceful. Just as Richard Inman wants it to be peaceful. I don't agree with some of the things he says, but I do agree that we need to try and keep it peaceful if it can be helped. But I am worried, as I've said many times before, that we do not have that. And what scares me even more now is I've actually seen a tweet. Elon Musk has retweeted this himself, that the UK has got 3 to 6 months left before the West is destroyed effectively. I'm dead serious about this shit. I wish I had the tweet brought up here so I could actually show it to you myself. But they've categorically said the West's got 3 to 6 months. Do you honestly think Keir the Traitor Starmer and Islam and the illegal immigrants, the unholy triad, is going to even give us 5 years, let alone 10? Do you honestly think They are going to wait for us to rebuild our cohesiveness, our community, our ability to fight, as it were? Or do you think they're going to go in and strike while the iron's hot and basically take a knife and root out the very heart of the United Kingdom? I know where my bets are if I was a betting man. They are going to waste no time trying to divide and conquer us, because that is ultimately the plan of Keir the Traitor Starmer. The same man who wants to release thousands of criminals, sex offenders, rapists, murderers, violent offenders, then say, oh, we've only got 100 spaces left in the prisons. But then all of a sudden, when we have old Whitey, the people who went to these protests, oh look, there's more room all of a sudden. He's doing this deliberately. It is basically, he is going out of his way to poke the Russian bear with a stick, or in this case, the United Kingdom bear with a stick. Or in this case, I'd probably say a knife. Probably not this one, though. This is just a butter knife. Anyway, he's basically going out of his way to poke the British, I guess the bulldog would be better, with a knife in the hopes that he will bite. And that way, they can go out of their way to have the dog put down. That's what it boils down to. Keir the Traitor Starmer is a man I wouldn't even trust doing anything. I wouldn't give this man a can of fresh air. I wouldn't give this man my last baked bean, quite frankly. I wouldn't give this man the time of fucking day. If he said, what's the time? And it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd tell him it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. Because I do not trust that man. I don't think anybody trusts that man. The man's scum, put simply. Honestly, there are things I would say that would probably strike resoundingly true with everyone. Like being stuck on a deserted island with Keir the Traitor Starmer. There are things that I would do that I cannot say here. Because the one thing I will stop at is I will not step over that line which represents the law. All I will say, though, is that things would happen, and leave it at that. But as far as Keir the Traitor Starmer, he is just the absolute worst person we've ever had to, I don't want to say grace politics, because it would imply he actually is a majestic figure. He's about as majestic as a geriatric hippopotamus, quite frankly. He is a man who has no integrity, no principles, and no fucking idea of what he's doing. He's a man who clearly, well, actually no, that's wrong. He does have an idea of what he's doing. He wants to destroy the country. Simple as that. He wants to do it through Islam and illegal immigration. Because after all, he is more worried about silencing his political opponents rather than doing his due duty and protecting the British public. That's the way I look at it. He is more interested in being a sectarianist bastard than he is actually serving the British people. And as I've said before, these are things I'm never going to retract, because they're all true, number one, for all they should be. And number two, these are my honest to God beliefs. I have no script, I have no auto cue, unlike Keir the Traitor Starmer. There is no script where I'm sitting here like reading off and saying like all these things. There is nothing like that. The only thing I have to my right, someone actually said I look right, and I think it was sarcasm, to be fair, but they were saying, I would look off to the right, and there it is, all printed on the fucking wall. No, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. I don't use an auto cue, because anybody with true beliefs doesn't need one. But only people who are phony, only people who are fake, and only people who are incapable of telling the truth need a script. But that's something, of course, the mainstream media is not going to tell you. A man who has caused more division in 2 months than anybody else has done in 5 to 10 years. Keir the Traitor Starmer can say all he wants about how he's going to do everything to fix the country. He's not fixing the country. As I said, he's destroying it. He is sabotaging it, bare minimum. He is not trying to fix the country. What he really means is, I am going to fix the issue of patriots who are fed up of not being listened to, who are fed up of being told what to do by dictators like myself, as in him, and he wants to basically do everything he can to take away our ability to speak out. He's an unequivocal fascist. As I said before, the definition of fascism is when someone, in layman's terms, starts taking people off the streets for politically motivated reasons, his opponents in particular, to prevent them from being able to have a platform on which to speak from. That is basically what fascism is, and he is practicing that in full force, taking political prisoners who are angry, quite rightly, with the way he's running the country, and sticking them in prison, and that way he can basically label them as criminals. Because who's gonna want to listen to a criminal? Would you rather listen to that criminal who's sitting in jail right now, or an honest man like me who has never committed a crime in his life? When we all know that's a crock of shit. Because if you recall the Margaret Thatcher protest, the mining protest I believe it was, and Keir the Traitor Starmer was down at one of these protests, the ones that went violent, where police officers got attacked. Oh, but he won't want to tell you that, will he? He won't want to tell you that, folks. You want to know why? How about you say it with me? It doesn't suit the narrative. That's why he doesn't want to tell us. He doesn't want to tell us that he's been part of violent protests himself. Maybe it's because it would be a matter of the pot calling the kettle black. Well, you know what, Keir the Traitor Starmer? People like you, who live in glass houses, shouldn't throw stones. And it's a mighty big fucking stone you've thrown on this one. I'm surprised the whole house hasn't collapsed under the back of your stone throwing. But if you think the British people are going to sit idly by while you fuck this country in the arse, bluntly speaking, you've got another thing coming. As I've always said before, folks, I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I'm not going to mince my words. I will do my best not to bullshit you, though I clearly failed with the reason why the kid was being arrested. But I am human, and I can at least admit my mistakes. Can you say the same for the mainstream media? Can you say the same for Keir the Traitor Starmer? Can you say the same for the vast majority of the politicians in the houses of treachery, I mean Parliament? You know the drill by now. You won't be able to. Because at the end of the day, they're all a bunch of lying fucking cunts. And as I said, I'm going to say it exactly how I see it. Exactly how it is. I will be that person, unafraid to speak out. I will put my voice out there. And if necessary, I'll put my sack on the chopping block. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I am able to stand up there, whether it's my head on the block or the sack on the block, because I've got the balls to speak out, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, because of these banging set of tits right here. But I've got the balls to do it. Keir the Traitor Starmer has about as much courage as the Flying Dutchman. No courage at all. Dutch courage. Complete and utter crock of shit. Keir the Traitor Starmer is the worst Prime Minister we will ever have, and the biggest traitor we will ever have, for the next 2,000 years, I suspect. Can you name one other politician that has actively sought out a violent revolution? Can you name one Prime Minister that has made it so they want to bring about civil war? You could name a king that brought about a revolution, that brought him to the chopping block and had his head chopped off. But you can't name a politician. He'll be the first person ever as Prime Minister to seek out a violent revolution. That is not an achievement you want, Keir the Traitor Starmer. You may think you want it, but let me tell you, you don't. Because you will never be able to grace politics. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. You will never be able to take a place in the Houses of Parliament again. You have no grace. As I said, you have the grace of a geriatric hippopotamus. You have the integrity of a second-hand car salesman, and you have the credibility of a low-grade bank clerk. You have nothing good going for you, Keir the Traitor Starmer, other than the fact you are the perfect role model to look up to as what not to be when becoming a Prime Minister. That's it. That's the only good thing about you. And the way I look at it, you want your violent revolution, be careful what you wish for, because you may find the numbers may be too much for you to handle.